Okay, it looks like we are live now. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the LLP virtual panel. This is our fourth monthly LLP meeting roundtable for the masses. Thank you so much for joining us. We're very, very excited today. We are actually outnumbered here at Modern Family Law with LLPs from other firms. We are so thrilled to see that. I'd like to start off with some introductions. Cindy, if you would like to lead us off, that would be wonderful.
Yes. Hi, my name is Cindy Gregory. I'm an LLP at Robinson and Henry. I'm currently working in the Colorado Springs South office.
Susan?
Hi, I'm Susan Harris. I'm also an LLP at the Law Office of Greg Quimby in Colorado Springs.
Welcome, welcome. Megan?
I am also an LLP. I am at the Drexler Law Group in Colorado Springs.
Great. And Janet?
Hi, I'm Janet. I am an LLP and I'm with Modern Family Law in the Denver office.
Wonderful. So we do have quite the representation of El Paso County here today, which I'm very glad to see. And hopefully we can be reaching further north, south, east, and west outside of the Denver metro area and hit all of the communities that really might need our services that don't know about them, especially in the rural areas. So thank you all, El Paso County, for joining us and for supporting us. Thanks to Modern Family Law for creating this platform. And as you can see, it's not just for Modern Family Law LLPs, it is for the LLP program as a whole. And we cannot wait to have more LLPs on. We know yesterday was the second LLP test. So hopefully we will be having more LLPs joining our ranks. Probably, is it going to be December? Maybe January?
I think it's one in January.
January.
Yep.
That'll be great. It will start off the new year with new LLPs. Just to get started a little bit, we are now 5 months into the LLP program. Janet, since it's launched in June, how have you felt the program is going for you? Have you experienced any big challenges, anything that you would like to bring to light about representation from an LLP versus an attorney?
So I think one of the biggest things, and not surprising, is a lot of people don't know what an LLP is and what an LLP can do. And so for the clients that I've talked to, once they find out what an LLP is and what they can do, they're kind of excited about it. They're happy to learn that there is somebody other than just a document preparer, that they actually can get legal representation. And it's going to go all the way through to the end of the case until final orders are entered. The fact that LLPs are going to be more cost effective for them, they're really happy about that. Divorces or any legal thing is not an inexpensive process. And so being able to have save some of their resources money-wise to do other things, they've been really happy with that.
That's wonderful. Have you had a memorable moment, something that has really stuck out that maybe a client has said to you regarding having an LLP on their case versus potentially representing themselves on their own because they couldn't afford representation?
So yeah, I do. I actually have a client right now that when they hired me, they had already agreed that they were going to split up. They knew that they were going to get divorced. They had filed jointly together. There were a lot of things that they agreed on. One of the bigger issues that clients a lot of times have, they had already set up a parenting plan, and their child was thriving with that parenting plan. There were a couple of other issues, though, that they were sticking on. When they retained me, it was the court had issued a delay prevention order because they hadn't done anything. They signed off on the petition when they filed, and that's the only thing that they had done. And so the fact that it was cost effective was really important for them, but they were really relieved when I basically took them by the hand and said, okay, this is what needs to be done. We're going to do this, and we'll get all of that done. We went to mediation, got a full resolution, and then after the mediation, the mediator had sent out the MOU. We had put together all of the final documents and everything else, and we're signing off on those. And they said to me, I didn't think I was ever going to get through this. They said, you know, when I first started, I felt overwhelmed and pretty much invisible. I didn't feel that anybody was listening to me. And at the end, they said they felt empowered, and they were just really happy that they were able to get through it all without feeling like a truck had run them over. So it's been some really positive. Yeah.
That's amazing that they felt kind of from invisible to empowered. That's huge. And I think even as LLPs and even as paralegals, we know those deadlines can just run us over. And if you miss one, it just stacks and then it just keeps going. So what a huge compliment to you, Janet, as an LLP, for them to go from being invisible to being invincible. So that is wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
What has been your most surprising aspect of transitioning from from paralegal to LLP?
So, you know, modern family law has totally embraced the whole LLP thing. When I first started at Modern Family Law, it was even before the first exam was given. So I was a paralegal when I first started here. But the transition was effortlessly. It was effortless. Everything was effortless. There are many different levels. There were people who worked with the LLPs in the firm to develop some of the skills that they needed to continue on, because you may have been a paralegal, you may have been drafting all of these documents, you may have been doing all of this before, and you may have been doing it for a lot of time, but now the full burden of everything is on your shoulders. And so, you know, there's stuff you need to learn to work with and how to deal with that stuff. So on every level, there were people, you know, here at the firm that were working with us and saying, you've got this is how you're going to get it done. And, you know, go out there and make your mark on the world. It's been really great.
Yeah, I can second that. We're lucky to have the support that we do have. And we're lucky to have so many paralegals from El Paso County today. Megan, I'd like to ask a couple of questions of you. Why did you decide to transition from paralegal to LLP, and what has been the biggest challenge in your professional life so far?
You know, I actually made that decision a while ago to transition because this has been kind of on the horizon for so long. The LLP, for a while, after doing this for 20 years, after a while, it was like a thought, and then the thought became solid. So I've been wanting to do it for way before they even opened applications. I think a common misconception for any LLP or paralegal is that you're doing it because you can't become an attorney. Mm-hmm. So I had really wanted to work within the community, to offer my services, do pro bono work, really volunteer, because over the years as a paralegal, you see that middle ground. They don't qualify for pro bono services. They cannot afford an attorney. And we're dealing with real cases when there are children involved, there's domestic violence, and they really need an attorney. Mm-hmm. The biggest change has really just been, I think, more work in some ways, which is good. I feel like, you know, the LLP cases that I have to put a lot more into them than I have before. I've always been in the shadow of the attorney, but now I'm the one having to respond. I'm the one having to figure out what to do when the client is, you know, freaking out and calling. They're calling me now. So that's been like different. That's been right. The change. And also really navigating it, because I do still continue to do paralegal cases on more high asset type cases with an attorney. So I'm kind of juggling between, I'm an LLP here, I'm a paralegal here. So that's been a little struggle.
Okay. That's fair. I mean, there are a lot of LLP tasks that do transition back and forth from paralegal, and most of us don't want to leave our clients. We don't want to hand them off to anybody, even if it's an attorney. We want to make sure our client is feeling safe and secure with us when it's outside of our scope. So having that paralegal background, I think, is a very important part of being an LLP. And you're right, it can get a little bit tricky. I'm really glad that you brought that up. What types of cases are you seeing that are well suited for LLPs?
I think a lot of cases are well suited for them when you have lower assets, probably. When you've got cases where people either have one income or a low income, and that's really what the LLP program was built for, because you see, being a paralegal, some of these contested cases, when they have an attorney, you're going up over $100,000 in legal fees. Sometimes people don't agree when they are, getting a divorce, but they don't want to do like a mediated divorce. So you can maybe, as an LLP, come in and help them to get to an agreement on stuff. I feel like my clients right now are a lot of younger clients, maybe not as long-term marriage clients. That's happening a lot. I do have a couple of them that are longer-term marriages, but I do see it a lot with lower asset right now.
Great. And I mean, that's kind of what we were intended for, to be able to bridge that gap between pro bono and full-on representation, and that gap is very big, and it just feels like it's getting bigger and bigger with the way the economy is. So I think that the younger crowd is definitely going to be aimed more LLP-ish work, which is great. I mean, we don't want to see divorce, but we know that it's out there and it happens. And I personally am glad that we are able to provide some sort of assistance to people who don't qualify or can't get an attorney. What about enhancements at your firm as a whole? What would you like to see LLP services provide more of, or open to? Just what your firm would be open to.
One of the things with the firm that I'm at, I do have another LLP in the firm, so we do have two, is that they've really been supportive of this, not just at our office, but in the community. And I think we're seeing that with Modern Family Law, Robinson Henry, some of these bigger firms that can employ several LLPs are really helping. Right now it's hard to say what we're looking for in the future because we just hit the ground running. But I think ultimately we would like to have more LLPs to basically offer more services to people. So when they're calling in to get a consult, it's not just an attorney that's available for them. But I do appreciate the support that I have at the firm that I'm at, and that they are supportive of my fellow LLPs and incoming LLPs. It's good to have that inclusion. And I think they are helping, like many of these other firms, with getting attorneys to understand what we are and respect us by having other attorneys respect us and stand up for us and be like, hey, I'm supportive of the LLP program. I think that's really huge. But honestly, going into the new year, I think it's all dependent on how this goes. Like, I haven't completed a case yet because I've only been on a couple of cases because I only got sworn in June. So I don't know how it's going to look later. So we'll see. I mean, it's been positive. I think none of my clients have even questioned it. I'm like, do you have any questions on what I told you about an LLP? And they're just like, no, I'm good. So they've been nice. So I think it's been very positive so far.
Excellent. That's great. And, you mentioning the community being behind you, which is a perfect transition to my questions for Cindy. Cindy recently presented at the El Paso County Family Bar, correct?
Yes, at the Family Law Conference.
At the Family Law Conference in El Paso County. Can you tell us a little bit about how that went, how they reached out to you, anything you'd like to share about that?
Sure. So I am actually the chair of the El Paso County LLP section. So I have presented at the Family Law Conference before, as in my capacity as a paralegal, because I'm also the president of the Pikes Peak Paralegals. So I've presented before. So once we got our LLP section up and running, the bar asked us to present on the LLP program to the attorneys in El Paso County, which is important because I think a lot of attorneys haven't really looked at the program or seen what we can and can't do, what what we can provide to not only the community, but to the firms themselves.
Mhm.
So I think it's just a new thing. So we're just trying to educate the community. We're trying to educate the fellow legal minds, and letting them know that we're not a threat to them. We're here to help. We're not here to take anything from them.
Yep.
So I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I've mentioned it before, but we're in the unfortunately fortunate position to not have a lack of family law clients. They're out there. There are so many that do need help. It's not a matter of lack in family law, unfortunately, but I agree. There's definitely room, and more room for the incoming LLPs and more to come, hopefully. So what was it that made you want to transition into that designation as an LLP from paralegal?
I think what really opened my eyes was, I volunteer a lot with the pro bono clinics
Mhm.
in the county. And so seeing so many individuals that don't have access to attorneys or legal advice, that can help them through this process. And I think that that was the big thing that pushed me, knowing that, all of these years of experience that I have can actually help someone out, that doesn't necessarily have access to that. So the access to justice piece is really what really got me into it.
I would have to agree with that. Yeah, that's a big thing. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm in that justice gap. I'm like here, moving here, but it's such a wide gap. So very glad to hear that you're also volunteering, as we all should be when we have the time and capacity. It's wonderful. I couldn't promote it more, especially Metro Volunteer Lawyers. Always, they've been wonderful with the LLP program, really promoting us, really trying to get us into volunteer and get that experience. And it's been great. They're wonderful and so supportive there. Have you faced any challenges as an LLP?
I think probably the biggest challenge is, kind of what Megan touched on earlier, is just people not knowing about us, not the community not understanding that we're here. It's such a new program. So when I talk to people, a lot of people don't understand or don't even know what an LLP is. I did have someone say, when I asked them, do you know what an LLP is? And they're like, well, that's a business. No, but I mean, yes, but in what I'm saying is we're licensed legal paraprofessionals, and I explain the program and what services we can provide, and we can help them through the situation that they find themselves in. And so just having the community and everybody embrace us, and just learning about the program. So the more we can educate, the better we'll be.
Absolutely. And has Robinson Henry helped you along
Absolutely.
overcoming those?
Yeah, they have been amazing. They are so 150% into this program. We're, hoping to extend, our ability to provide more LLPs once we get more licensed. So yeah, Robinson and Henry has been phenomenal, giving me every opportunity, all anything that I need, anything I ask for, they give it to me. So it's been amazing.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful to hear. Susan, you're up. Can you talk a little bit about how you feel you've been as an LLP at providing effective legal services to families who are facing the typical challenges that we do see?
Yeah, so I think the I guess oversimplification of it is things feel so streamlined, uh, both for me and the client. And I think both sides of that coin, we're thrilled about it. So rather than a client calling in with a question that I know the answer to, but I can't answer because I don't have a license to practice, I have to go ask your attorney, rather than them having to wait for the answer and then incur the fees of asking me the question, me talking to the attorney, me going back to them and then telling them the answer. We cut out that middle person. So faster, a little bit cheaper, and something they don't tell you when you become a family law paralegal is that you often become a de facto therapist. And generally, every attorney I've worked with, even the most empathetic, they're not necessarily wanting to serve that role. in part because they're thinking, don't pay me this rate for, therapizing you and letting you vent. I just need the facts to get you to the goal in your case. And so I can now serve both of those roles. I can be the empathetic ear, and I of course am using the word therapize very loosely. It's not a substitution for an actual therapist.
No.
But, we get so much of the information that then we cull down for the attorney as a paralegal. Now another example of streamlining things, and we've already touched on the increase to access to justice for folks. The last statistic I saw was that about 75% or so of family law cases in Colorado are self-represented. And I think that in part is funds related. Some people just also unfortunately have maybe a bad stigma about attorneys. And so I think offering this additional tier of service can give other people more options too. You don't necessarily need to go to a neurosurgeon for a routine sinus infection. You can go to your nurse practitioner for that. And so same kind of thing here. You can sometimes get in faster and at a lesser rate, save more money for your family.
Yep. I agree. Everything you said. Sometimes you just don't need to see the doctor.
Right.
Which is not necessary. Sometimes you absolutely do.
Sometimes you need that.
When you do, but in the times that you don't, and we can streamline it, I agree. It's amazing to be able to offer that to people. We touched on the test yesterday with the LLP. Somebody asked a question. I believe there were 32 new people that took the LLP yesterday. So congratulations to them. Susan, what advice would you give any aspiring LLP?
So definitely trust yourself. You have to have as much faith in yourself as the people who love you and support you. And so don't let those doubts creep in and hold you back. Also, soak up everything in your everyday. I've been fortunate to work for firms that the paralegals are way beyond administrative duties. We're case managers. We're talking to the clients. We're a part of the strategizing. And while, of course, the attorney in those relationships was making the decisions ultimately, it didn't go without input from the paralegal. And so while it was a fun juxtaposition of studying for the exam and then applying those studies of, okay, I'm studying separate property and making those claims and contribution, et cetera. And then having a case where that's the biggest issue in the case. And so I do think one of the biggest challenges for the LLP exam that I would venture to say is not necessarily a challenge for the majority of law students, or like law students coming out of law school and then taking the bar, if you think traditional student, is that based upon the qualifications we have to have, most of us, if not all of us LLPs, are working. So we're studying for this professional exam while working most likely a full-time job. And if you're in family law, it's heavy. It's busy, it's fast-paced, there's a million deadlines you have to track. And so that is one of the challenges. And I try to look at my day-to-day like that. Of, okay, this is also studying. The time I'm spending on this case is helping me prepare for the exam. I was fortunate enough to have a lot of support within my office too. And I hope that everyone else gets that. I have heard from some that they don't necessarily have that internally. If you do, like, please communicate with your team and let them know what you need. Hey, like, we just finished this big prep on a trial and I haven't been able to study for a week. I need some time to do that and figure that out with them. Pick their brains on things. One of the challenges for us as the first cohort was we didn't have a whole lot of practice essays for it. So I felt like I was going in a little bit blind on that. We kind of talked through some of those things with the attorneys on that. And in that same vein of reach out to other paralegals, reach out to other LLPs. I have had a few people reach out wanting to just know more about it and know what I'm talking about now. Here are my challenges. Here's what I wish I had more. Reach out for that. Like me specifically, I love this question. This is my jam. I love mentoring paralegals. Go to your local paralegal groups. In El Paso County, we have Pikes Peak Paralegals, and I'd say, I guess, Denver area, Rocky Mountain Paralegal Association. Both are fantastic groups. I'm a part of both and very supportive. And my last thing is, some people might think it cheesy, but really your self-care. Again, if you're taking this, you're probably working too. And man, burnout's real. It's a challenge, I won't lie, to work all day in family law and then go home and study more family law. So do build in those times for rest. I am a believer that you need to rest your brain for it to absorb more. You've got to re-energize it for it to be able to pick up more. So do find ways to whatever that is for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think DoorDash got very concerned about me after I passed the LLP and I didn't need it anymore. Like, I think she's starving. We haven't heard from her in a couple of days. We better go check on her. It is a very time-consuming process, but it is very well worth it.
Yes.
That kind of segues directly into opening questions up to all of you. Where do you see the future of the LLP profession going, and how do you think it's going to shape access to justice? Anybody can jump in.
I would say not just like the LLP program for family law, but I feel like we're going to be following in the steps of Arizona that is expanding. And I am hopeful that the next expansion can go into probate. I think that is a huge, huge area that is in a big need for people, you know. So I think that going forward, as we move forward in family law, I think they're going to open it up for other areas. But I also feel like as the years go by with 2 tests a year, we're probably going to see a lot more LLPs coming into the field.
I hope that's the case.
There's also a lot of other states that are coming on board too. So since since we've taken the exam, I believe Texas and Minnesota both have started the process of getting a similar program. So I see that most of the states will probably end up following suit. A lot of them are probably kind of sitting back to see how everybody else does things. But I know that when Judge Arkin started, working on all of this stuff, she really looked at, and the other players that got this program up to speed, she really looked at all the other states and how they were doing things and tried to, take the good pieces from each state.
That's great. Judge Arkin has always been such a huge supporter of us. That's definitely shout out to Judge Arkin and everything she's done for this program. It's been amazing. We have a question. What clients are we typically working with, and how do they differ from those we worked with as paralegals versus now as LLPs? And I think we touched on that a little bit, but if anybody would like to expand, please do.
I think sometimes it's the same clients that we worked with, the same type of clients that we worked with as paralegals that we're getting as LLPs. I don't know that there's necessarily going to be a difference. There are certain things that LLPs can't do in a case, but that doesn't mean that we can't work with those clients as well, maybe alongside an attorney, or the attorney can come in when needed or whatever. But I think from what I've had so far, they're the same clients that I have as an LLP that I worked with as a paralegal.
I agree.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I was going to agree with Janet. I'm seeing the same thing, same types of cases and clients that I've had previously as a paralegal.
Same. There are those that I don't know that the attorney will ever touch because I'll be able to resolve it without the need of an attorney, which obviously that's a change. But then there's those that walk in the door. You're from day one, you're going to end up in a courtroom despite how many efforts otherwise. And those, for me, it's a little bit different. It's same cases, but doing a lot more on the front end and then kind of almost handing it over to the attorney.
Yeah.
I think for me though, like a lot of my cases right now, I do have like co-counsel on them. So the difference for me is really working with the attorneys I've worked with for years, but in the capacity as an LLP. And we're like navigating how we're going to handle this case because I've played one specific role in a case and I know how that attorney wants things. I know how this needs to be done. And now I'm co-counseling and I'm making decisions and talking with this attorney. So that's the difference for me with the clients. And I do have one client that actually signed on for the LLP I was the paralegal on the case and now I'm an LLP on the case. So it was interesting dynamic because she knew me for years as her paralegal. So she did trust me on her case because I did know the case. Mm-hmm. So it was an interesting transition to, okay, well now you can ask me a question. I can actually answer you and not have to wait.
That's so true. It's different to be able to go into that role. And I'm so glad you brought up the fact that we do and can co-counsel with attorneys if an attorney is open to that. It sounds like that's something that your firm is open to, which is a wonderful program to have both ready to go on the case from the start. I love hearing about that. What do you think the biggest misconception about what LLPs is right now?
Case stealers, money stealers. I think that's what it is.
I was thinking
I'm glad you said it, Megan.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, when you get a lot of it's mostly coming from attorneys that, you know, we're not educated. We don't have the same background as an attorney. And I agree, we do not have the same background as an attorney. And that's why we don't have a full license. Mm-hmm. But I do get that misconception that I don't have the education and training behind me. And I think a lot of us have gotten that over the years just in the paralegal role. Like you're a secretary, you know, you get those attorneys that don't want to talk to you about the case because you're not an attorney. You couldn't possibly, you know, relay that message to the attorney. So I don't know, that's just the things I heard, especially when we went to the family law conference in Vail this year. That was one that you did hear a lot of that they really feel like we're going to take their cases, we're going to take their money. And I try to explain to them that like your cases, you're probably going to go to a hearing and spend thousands of dollars, and we are in the market for those that are possibly not going to a hearing and can't afford that counsel. So we're getting that middle market.
Or just don't want to spend the money either.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, I think like what Janet described, sometimes what folks need is navigating the system. Like I look at a DPO and I'm like, oh, that's easy to deal with. I know exactly what it says, but I can understand a self-represented party looking at it like it's a tax return. Well, if it's this, then do that. But if it's this other thing, then maybe this or that. And so that one-page document can just be so scary to someone who is dividing up their financial life and their family. And if we're able to just hold their hand and walk them through the process, they don't need to spend six figures on that. And those aren't the cases that attorneys want anyway. They want their paralegals doing them. So
yes.
That's right. Right.
And I think a lot of it is just that we are still very new. We're only 5 months old. We're still tweaking our own, you know, the 207 rule. We're still working on it. We're still tweaking it. We're seeing the weaknesses. We're seeing the strengths of it. And I think it's the same with attorneys. They're seeing the weaknesses and now they're seeing the strengths. And I love getting their perspective on the weaknesses. So we kind of know how to structure where they think it's lacking so we can kind of build it up a little bit more there. So there's a bigger, broader understanding of what an LLP does versus what an attorney does. And, you know, you said it wonderfully. We're not attorneys. We're LLPs. We need the attorneys to be the attorneys. And hopefully we're opening up that market for the attorneys to be able to take the cases that absolutely need the representation, or to be able to transition our clients seamlessly into someone who needs an attorney's representation versus the LLP. Like you said, you don't always have to see the doctor, but we know when you do. And it's not a hit to us when we're like, hey, you really do need to see, you know, you need an attorney on this. Let's get you transitioned over. Let's make sure you're taken care of. And then you're going to come right back to me and we're going to finish this off. Does anybody else want to add anything? You guys have been such a wonderful panel.
We can also do name changes and gender designations. I haven't really heard much talk
Right.
about that, but I'm dying for those to come in my door.
That's a great point.
Send them my
Yes.
way.
Gender, adult name changes. Did you say that?
Right.
Yep.
I did,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Adult name changes. Yep. An adult gender designation changes.
Right.
Mhm.
I think we have answered everyone's questions at the moment. So it's now 11:35, and I don't know if there we go. Did I freeze up? Technology is so much fun. I just want to thank you all for being here. Thank you, El Paso County, for showing up and showing out for us. And sounds like the LLP in El Paso County is taking off. And with you guys down there, I can't imagine that it won't be incredibly successful. And thank you guys so much for being here. Again, thank you to Modern Family Law for allowing us this platform. And anybody want to say any closing remarks?
I do want to really quick say, I do want to thank Modern Family, just because you guys have really kind of paved the way for us, and you guys are really getting out there and promoting the program. And so it's like you said earlier, it's not just benefiting the LLPs at Modern Family, but it's benefiting all of us. So we really do appreciate everything that Modern Family has been doing for us.
Yep, 100%.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think that's the perfect way to end. And again, thank you ladies so much for being here. Thank you for being part of the LLP community. Congratulations to everybody who took the test yesterday, and we look forward to a new year with our new LLPs.
Yeah.
Everybody enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.